60 minutes here on Newsnight. Enjoy 99.7 FM and Love 99.5 in Kumasi. President Mahama is lashing out at the erstwhile NPP administration over what he describes as reckless management and weak leadership resulting in Ghana's current economic woes.
Several years of financial mismanagement, irresponsible borrowing, reckless spending, and weak leadership that failed to address the underlying structural issues within our economy.
We have the very latest coming up on that and details as a member of the National Economic Dialogue team is calling for more enhanced revenue mobilization agenda to secure Ghana's growth in the next decade.
A comprehensive domestic revenue mobilization plan that curbs illicit financial flows, harnesses remittances, and ensure fair taxation.
And we hear from the Finance Minister, Dr. Akteforson, who is pushing for some aggressive measures to deal with the state-owned enterprises to save the economy and contain the rising debt stock.
George will be back in the next 30 minutes with that. And in sports,
GFA President Ketu Kriku introduces Black Stars coach Otuado and Technical Director Wilfred Schaefer to Sports Minister.
And also tonight, communities along the Ankobra River faces freshwater crisis as illegal miners block the river, allowing seawater to take over what was once their main source of fresh water.
What is stopping him from acting? It's not consultations we need action. And we have the personnel to take the action. All we need is the orders to be given. So please get your priorities right and act to save Ghanaians from environmental terrorism.
Stay with us as myself and Faustina brings you the woes of the coastal communities in Kerchi South District of the Volta region as it deepens. Scores of people are displaced after their homes were washed away by the sea.
If nothing is done urgently and we allow the sea to cross the road continuously, the degree of devastation that we'll see cannot be contained.
And in our Ghana Man series today, we'll take you to Accra and tell you about Molin National Park, where nearly 1.5 times the size of Greater Accra and Ghana's only game reserve spanning 3 regions.
So big that it covers a land area of 4,577 square kilometers, which is very greater than almighty Greater Accra. It has this variety of biodiversity in terms of flora and fauna.
My name is Faustina Safan. I'm doing this with
Blessed Suga. We'll be back shortly. And you're welcome back to News Night here on Joy 99.7 FM. And we're starting off with President John Mahama, who's continuing his criticism of the erstwhile New Patriotic Party administration over what he sees as the reckless management and weak leadership resulting in Ghana's current economic woes.
Well, Blessed, the president made the no-hold-barred criticism of the previous administration at the ongoing National Economic Dialogue at the Accra International Conference Center. The 2-day event has brought together key economic players to diagnose and prescribe some remedies as part of government's effort to deal with Ghana's economic crisis.
Well, as I was indicating earlier, the president himself started off with the address. Listen to him.
When I assumed office barely 2 months ago, I inherited an economy that was in a state of deep crisis, one that was weighted down by numerous challenges. The economy was reeling from unprecedented levels of debt, soaring inflation, high unemployment, declining levels of foreign direct investment, and low business confidence. The financial struggles that our nation is facing have not arisen overnight. They have been the result of several years of financial mismanagement, irresponsible borrowing, reckless spending, and weak leadership that failed to address the underlying structural issues within our economy. This pervasive mismanagement culminated in Ghana's defaults on its debt obligations. This marked a devastating milestone for our dear country, spawning a cascade of economic problems that have severely impacted our people. Huge fiscal deficits, excessive government expenditures, and overall financial imprudence have compromised our economic resilience. Credible rating agencies such as Moody's, Fitch, Standards & Poor, have all downgraded our international credit rating consecutively, leading to capital flight and a loss of investor confidence and trust.
Well, the president is also been criticizing previous managers of the Bank of Ghana for contributing to the high rate of inflation.
The Bank of Ghana, instead of serving as an independent monetary authority, became a financing tool for government's excesses, fueling inflation and devaluing our currency. The cost of living has skyrocketed to unbearable levels, leaving families grappling with the inability to afford even the most basic necessities. At the same time, inflation erodes the value of wages and savings, pushing many into a cycle of poverty. Meanwhile, the ill-considered collapse of indigenous banks significantly reduced indigenous presence in Ghana's financial and banking space and led to massive job losses. For too long, Ghana has been plagued by short-term decision-making that prioritizes political expediency over long-term stability. We refuse to accept this as Ghana's reality. We reject the notion that economic hardship must be our norm. We refuse to surrender to the forces of stagnation and decline.
Well, it's a good time now to hear from Professor John Gachi, who's an economist, a member of the National Economic Planning Committee, the dialogue we're seeing today, and also a former Deputy Finance Minister, Dr. Stephen Amwa, who are all joining us via telephone lines now. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. But Prof. Gachi, I just wanted to start off with you, particularly because of the tone the president is setting now on what's supposed to be a national dialogue. Is the president not making, or perhaps degenerating this platform into a political one?
Well, I don't think so. The idea is to articulate the nature of the economy, and that's why he has articulated from the fiscal side, from the growth aspect, from efficiency of spending public expenditure, how we procure our debt and our debt management mechanism, and the problem all these things generate for us as a country. So I see it as articulating the challenges of the country, and for us to see what we can do going forward to put the country on a path that when we chart will inure to the benefit of the industry, benefit of individuals, and benefit to the economy as large.
The dialogue itself that we're witnessing for today, and I believe will be concluding by tomorrow, the question about its relevance and what it will add or perhaps take away from the Ghanaian economy. Are you able to explain to people clearly what the plan is?
Well, the plan is very simple. The objective is to come out with a fiscal consolidation plan that will feed into the 2025 budget, and then the rest will feed into the medium to long-term economic agenda of the country, spearheaded by the National Development Planning Commission, and also will be of interest to the sector ministers for implementation. So that is the arrangement, and I believe we have seen consensus building around the economy that has taken us from trouble before. I believe we know that essentially develop a homegrown solution that feed into the IMF program, and when we started implementing the IMF program built on that consensus, we have seen remarkable improvement in the energy sector. We have seen improvement in economic indicators. That promises that the economy will look better in 2017, and that came to pass. It is also expected that if we come together as a people, working assiduously to develop a recommendation to direct the path of the economy, we will see good results going forward.
And in fact, that's bringing to mind the issue about the highlights for today. And a good time now to hear from Dr. Stephen Amoah, the point about the president who himself extended some invitation to the minority, I should say, and former managers of the economy. Dr. Stephen Amoah, I believe you're still with us. The point about why you were not there, and of course, Dr. Amoah will be with us shortly to explain that because I believe he has some explanations to give on what it is that the NPP has to offer in this whole national dialogue. Dr. Amoah, the point about why you were missing in action today, why you did not participate, and by extension, your political party as well.
Hello?
Dr. Amoah, I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, come again.
Well, I was just pointing to, going back to the address that the president made during the State of the Nation. You were there in Parliament. He then extended invitation to your side of the House, the minority, and former managers of the economy to be part of this national economic dialogue. No show today, and I'm asking why.
Evans, thank you very much. My regards to our listeners this evening. I think with respect to the concern that the legitimate concern is just raised, I think our leadership will be in the best position to respond because we work under a leadership and we go by their directives. So I think as a result of shared responsibility, I think they will be in the best position to answer.
You want us to wait for leadership, but you're a key member of the NPP and you're the former Deputy Finance Minister. We wanted some explanation as to why you in particular didn't show up, because the president has painted a grim picture of the state of affairs of the country, especially one that you managed, one that you left behind. Shouldn't you be concerned?
No, we are concerned, but you were talking about Parliament. And the Parliament, as I'm saying, we have a leadership. I mean, where you are working now, there could be a lot of issues that you wouldn't have to really come out to answer because you have managers, you have directors. And that's what I was talking about. I mean, shared responsibility. So I think it wouldn't argue well for me to speak as a parliamentarian why we're not there. Because we're not there not as finance minister or former deputy finance minister, but as parliamentarians. And we have leaders. That's what I mean.
How about today's picture that is being painted of the Ghanaian economy? The fact that it is grim, as Fosti was pointing to, and that we need a concerted effort at addressing the challenges. What role then are you readying yourselves as the minority to play in that?
To keep them on their feet. In the first place, Evans, the picture he's creating does not really illustrate the kind of economy that we left for him. Of course, there are concerns, but as much as we can and as much as they will listen, in the House, we raise a lot of issues. We put up feet to make sure that we correct them in most of the things that they would like to do in the House. And if they take our advice at the committee levels, we do same. But the concerns that our president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, is raising, it's quite interesting.
Quite concerned about the president is quite concerned about the economy.
I beg you, can you give me a minute?
Okay.
When you're talking about economy of a country, it's not just anything that you have your discretion to describe it. The performance parameters are there for appraisal. You're talking about the primary indicators, you're talking about secondary indicators, you're talking about GDP growth, agriculture, you're talking about industry, you're talking about services, you're talking about inflation, you're talking about your primary balance, of course, that to GDP and co. Why is it that you only select inflation that we left about 23%? They handed over this country to us just 15.4. What about GDP that we are growing over 6% against the 3.4? Industry, we are growing about 4.5 against their 2.7. Talking about, industry 4.3. We left 8.9. Agric, we left 4.5 against 2.7. Industry 5 against 2. Go on, primary balance. We left a positive. These are all indicators showing that, yes, some of them are not good, but most of them show that in 2024, last quarter of the year, we left a better, a well-restored economy for them to manage. So please, our president respectfully should do the needful but continue what we left from him. Because it's not at his painting, although there are challenges.
But the president disagrees. He attributes the current economic woes to the mismanagement of the previous administration. He cites instances where Cocoa Board is indebted, same as ECG, where today the finance minister, Tuforsen, says is currently under a ticking time bomb. How do you respond to that, and why are you not willing to be part of the solution to the problem?
Sorry. In the first place, Cocoa Board, they talk about rollover. The NDC guys left almost 200,000 tons, if I'm right. I mean, rollover cocoa for us, which has been about 30-year practice when it comes to Cocoa Board, where after research by Cocoa Board, they go to the market and take money. I mean, waiting for the yield. But if something happens naturally, it can affect the yield. Then you roll over for the next year or to the next year. You're talking about cocoa roots. They left a huge debt for us to take over. In fact, they were even paying over $444,000 per kilometer. We were rather paying less than $300. Now you're talking about electricity. They left a situation where we're not even having money to purchase, light crude. You all know in this country. I'm not saying it is the best. I don't want to do that comparison. But these have been issues with our country that government after government, we have these same issues. But if he says that we left a very bad economy, as if it was in coma, we are still paying billions of cedis for emolument. We're doing that. We're still rolling out our pro-poor policies, effectively. So what at all our president is talking about? I'm not saying there were no challenges. And even while we got to that GDP of over 70%, we went high, and now it's about around 72, 74%. Let me tell you, first time in the history of this country, we have impaired productivity to the extent that Ghanaian workers, Ghanaian public workers were asked to stay home, but they were paid. Have you forgotten that we lost revenue of about 12 billion in 2022? The world grew negative 3.3. We even grew 0.3 or 4, but we're spending. And we had to resort to debt financing. Our GDP was not growing the whole world, and Ghana. So definitely your debt to GDP will go up. But there's the government that has been able to manage the economy sector. We've reduced almost all the relevant macro indicators and have performed even some of them that we took over in 2016.
And of course, this is just the beginning of that conversation, the National Economic Dialogue, where, of course, all of us are beginning to share ideas about how the economy should be promoted. Dr. Stephen Amwa there, who will be on PM Express later tonight with Professor John Gachi. And Prof, I'm looking at day 2, which is happening tomorrow. What will be the way forward, and what are we to expect?
To expect the level of a vibrant commitment to discussion and agreeing on issues in the various thematic areas. I visited all the thematic areas to see what was going on, and I cannot imagine the kind of cohesion that Ghanaians from different ideological backgrounds, different schools of thought, different professions are able to work together in a frantic manner to see how they can find solution to the problems of this country. So I expect that spirit to continue tomorrow, and that will culminate in giving us some recommendation that will influence our policies to ensure that we get the best for the economy and we get the best for the people of Ghana.
The finance minister has made this clear to us that what you're doing now will culminate in feeding into the economic policy of government and, broadly speaking, the national budget. But looking at the time frame, he's doing that in a number of days. Are you sure that you'd be able to, in fact, put together this document, tidy up all of the scores of recommendations you're receiving now in time?
So the truth of the matter is that all reports around the economy, even as recent as 2024, the World Bank Ghana Public Finance Review recommend that Ghana should focus on long-term structural reforms rather than short-term program that we continue to engage in. So it is very clear to us that what we are doing will have effect in the short term. That is where part will be going into the 2025 budget, and parts will be going into the medium to long-term agenda of the country. So that's the perspective within which we are working.
And of course, as I was just pointing out, this is just the beginning of it. Grateful to you, Professor John Gachi, and Dr. Stephen Amwa, who will be joining us later tonight on the Joy News channel as we look at this whole economic dialogue that's going on. I'm sure you also have your own take on this. The first thing you'd be asking for is scrap all the taxes. We don't want to
Indeed.
pay.
And we're looking forward to the president keeping that promise they made during the campaign trail. Well, meanwhile, member of the National Economic Dialogue Committee, Dr. Mwako, has called for a more enhanced revenue mobilization agenda to secure Ghana's growth in the next decade.
The country needs to break away from its past pattern of stop and go reform cycles and instead commit to a credible, more stable developmental course. Third, a comprehensive domestic revenue mobilization plan that curbs illicit financial flows, harnesses remittances, and ensure fair taxation to fuel our public service and investment in our own progress. The overall goal of this strategy will be to mobilize significant increased financing coupled with rigorous expenditure management in the next 10 years to support our development, underpinned by a strong accountability mechanism.
And indeed, the finance minister himself, Dr. Kasila Tuforsen, was there. He says, proposals coming up from this dialogue will heavily feature in government's first budget statement, which is happening in the next 8 days.
It is my hope and prayer that the lessons that will emerge from these conversations will guide our steps and that we may not repeat the mistakes of recent past. The panel discussions, workshops, and breakout sessions have been carefully designed to confront the pressing economic challenges of our time. The resultant prescriptions and the critical policy initiatives will drive structural reforms and our transformation agenda to reset our economy and secure the prosperity of our citizens. Mr. Chairman, as we embark on this development of our medium-term plans, commencing with the forthcoming budget on March 11th, the insight, expertise, and experiences will be garnered from these deliberations will prove very invaluable assets that will shape our collective path for our future.
Well, let's shift our attention now to the health sector, where 3 Agenda 111 health projects commissioned by former President Akufo-Addo had their civil works yet to be completed. Now, the facilities at Trede, Ofori-Krom and Ahanta West districts were commissioned 2 days before the 2024 elections, but there were no plans to hand them over to the Ghana Health Service for operationalization. The Health Minister, Komnaminta Kando, said civil works on all the health facilities are below 95% complete. Nana Aljima joined the Health Minister to tour the 2 commissioned Agenda 111 facilities in the Ashanti region. He filed this report.
According to the Health Minister, only $400 million of the $1.7 billion needed for the Agenda 111 health facilities was released for construction. By the figures, over $1 billion will be needed for the completion of all facilities under construction. Mr. Akando explains.
Now, we need not less than $1.4 billion to be able to finish the whole project. These are the facts.
A visit to the Ofori-Krom and Trede facilities, commissioned by former President Akufo-Addo, showed both facilities are not operational. Though civil works are advanced, there is much to be done in both facilities. Road networks leading to both sites are untarred, dusty and bumpy. At the Trede facility, part of the roads within the hospital are untarred. Some beds and a few equipment that were moved into the hospital continue to gather dust due to inactivity.
The facts are that, per my inspection, as you have all seen for yourself, they are still construction sites. Even the civil works have not been completed yet. Labs are incomplete. Not all the equipment have been delivered. And so we don't have health workers here working as expected. Patients cannot come for treatment here as expected. To tell you the truth, I came with the Director General for Ghana Health Service. I'm here with the Regional Director for Ghana Health Service, Ashanti Region, and they tell me there's no action plan for recruitment or for staffing of these facilities.
According to the Health Minister, though there is no dedicated source of funding for the project, the government is willing to complete the projects following the submission of a blueprint.
Mr. President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama's marching order was clear that I should inspect all these facilities and then have a blueprint going forward. How we can, as a matter of urgency, operationalize the facility for the people to get the full benefit of the facility.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
Well, to other stories now, communities along the Ankobra River are facing a freshwater crisis as seawater takes over what was once their main source of drinking water. Once a vital source, despite pollution from illegal mining, the river is now stagnant and salty.
Well, as we know it, Joy News can now confirm that the miners in the Prisia, Hinan and Nawuja areas are using excavators to dig directly in the river basin after blocking it. This came to light after a fact-finding committee set up by the Lands and Natural Resources Minister visited the area to see firsthand the havoc caused by illegal mining. We can now get details because my colleague Erastus Aridongo, who is embedded with that team and has travelled along the river, and now reports some of the findings that are emerging from this visit to the western region.
To better understand the workings and impact of illegal mining activities, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources set up this team of experts to embark on a fact-finding trip across the country. At Awodia, close to Pristia, we made a shocking discovery. The Ankobra has been blocked and contained for mining purposes.
The river has been blocked, redirected. It's not really flowing well, and it's camped at Awodia.
Even more shocking is the complete blockade of the river at Pristia Himan, close to the bridge. The illegal miners have separated the river and built an embankment to prevent the river from flowing. They are now mining directly in the basin of the stagnated Ankobra River.
What we have found at Pristia Himan is what can be described as total madness. The flow from upstream has been blocked, and then they are mining in the basin itself.
The river is now a stagnated brown pool beneath the Pristia Himan Bridge.
And indeed, Erastus has been embedded in that camp as we talked to you about earlier, Erastus, and I know that you've been traveling yourself along the river. Give us a blow-by-blow account of what we're now finding out.
Well, so I thought that with the change of administration, at least, we will have a reduced action in terms of Galamseyers on the ground. But what we are seeing is a complete takeover by people who feel that their government has come to power, and so they must also go the side of the same illegalities that we spoke about in the previous administration. For example, when we trace the pollution of the Ankobra from the estuary where it looks green, you will drive for on a boat for 30 minutes, and then it starts getting brown again all the way. Now, when we went to Awodia, we saw that intentionally they have blocked the Ankobra so that they could mine in the basin itself. Previously, it was champagne machines that were sitting on it at various points. But now, they've used excavators to block it actually, and they are mining directly, sitting in the basin of the river. And to me, that is so shocking. It happened at Awodia. When you go to Pristia Himan, they are also doing the same thing there. And to me, it's crazy. I've never seen anything like that before. In fact, in the coming days, we'll be serializing what we found in the forest reserves, in other areas like Dunkwao, in the central region, and others where illegal miners have taken over towns, mining directly in settlements. And they claim that they are party people and they should be allowed to do that.
Oh, okay, but here's the thing, because the way forward, you've been to all of these communities plus more. Really, the mandate of the committee set up by the Lands Minister, what's likely to happen and what do we know?
Well, so from what I know, this committee is a fact-finding committee. They are supposed to map out areas where Galamseyers has been hardest hit and they are supposed to present a report on the impact of Galamsey, the realities on the ground, where government needs to apply enforcement in the immediate term, and the long-term measures that government needs to take. They are supposed to present that report to them, and that's what they are supposed to do. So it wasn't an enforcement team, though we had a number of military men who were supposed to protect us from any sort of aggression. Currently, they are done with their work, and I know they will be presenting a report to the minister on the way forward. I know there is an enforcement drive that government is preparing to deal with many of these infractions.
Thank you, Erastus, for bringing us that update. Well, Blessed, let me bring him this time, the assemblyman for Ankobra area. Patrick Isua, he joins me on phone with more. Unfortunately, I seem to have lost him. We're just looking at the impact of this. And Blessed, this is quite sad. We're just learning that this once fresh sauce is now salty. I'm just wondering how people in the area, they're coping with this reality.
A never-ending debate, isn't it? Plus all of the work and coalition that we've built against our hashtag No to Galamsey. In fact, brings to mind what we have done over the years and what it is that the authorities will be doing about this. Fortunately, the Lands and Natural Resources Minister has set up a committee. We have a member of our desk there, of course, embedded in the team. Erastus giving us all of the updates. So we're just waiting to see what the outcome will be. But the stark reality is that illegal mining appears to be a significant matter again.
But waiting is what we're all doing at this point in time. But we've been hearing from Awula Sewa. She is coordinator of Eco-Conscious Citizens, and she's actually frustrated at the slow pace of response to environmental threats.
Excellency, you came and you said you wanted to reset Ghana. Before you came to office, you said you repealed LI 2462, the law that allows mining in forest reserves. You haven't done so. Ghanaians are disappointed. We know where all the hotspots are. We know the forest reserves that are being devastated. Mr. President, we are urging you to declare a state of emergency to enable you to deal with the hotspots. We're not talking about shoot to kill, which is just untenable. What we are saying is that equip the army, let them go there and remove all the environmental terrorists and their equipment, and then trace the owners of the equipment and also prosecute them. Use the polluter pays principle so that anybody who is polluting our environment would be prosecuted, their assets seized and used towards the cost of reclamation. What's the point of recovering all the stolen money when we are all dying of kidney disease or other diseases brought about by the pollutants in the water?
I will say what there. Well, it's time now for business, and George Riafi joins me in the studio. George, you spent your whole day at the National Economic Dialogue, engaging a lot of people. What worries me the most is the picture of our economy painted today by leaders of our economy. Is there hope, really?
Well, the hope is that for those who are themselves painting that picture that things are terrible, they have given the commitment that they're going to do what they have to do to fast track the process. And that is why for the Finance Minister, Dr. Atufo, he has made a strong case for some aggressive reforms of these state-owned enterprises to try and deal with their debt situation. I'll be getting you more on that one. And to be hearing from the Bank of Ghana Governor, Dr. Johnson Isiama, who is optimistic about inflation hitting that single-digit target soon based on some fiscal and monetary measures currently being implemented. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials. Synthesis tanks and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal. Welcome back to Business on Newsnight, and let's focus on some of the stories that are coming out of the National Economic Dialogue. And Finance Minister Dr. Atufo is making a strong case for some aggressive reforms of some state-owned enterprises to save the economy and contain the rising debt stock. Now, this follows revelations by the minister that most of the accounts of these state-owned enterprises are in the red, whilst others are saddled with huge debt. Speaking at the National Economic Dialogue in Accra, the minister noted that the development calls for some drastic measures.
From the Electricity Company of Ghana to the Agriculture Development Bank, almost all of them are in the red. Subsequently, this debt still exists, and so we will need to take action to restructure most of the state-owned enterprises. Fiscal challenges and opportunity to support, and the need for us to talk about revenue now. We can't develop if we fail to generate resources internally.
Meanwhile, the finance minister has also outlined some strategies to turn around the economy and put it on that path of sustained growth.
Enhancing domestic revenue mobilization, balancing equity, simplicity, and efficiency. Pursuing a quantitative fiscal consolidation, ring-fencing growth, enhancing spending, and social spending is the second focus item. The third is ensuring compliance with public financial management and public procurement laws. Implementing robust commitment control to maximize value for money and ensure fiscal discipline. The fourth is to enhance the efficiency of public spending in social programs and public infrastructure. The fifth is phasing out costly, regressive, and ineffective subsidies in the energy sector, whilst increasing targeted social programs. The sixth is reforming state-owned enterprises that create contingent liability and quasi-fiscal spending. Example is Ghana Cocoa Board and the almighty Electricity Company of Ghana. Your Excellency, strengthening Ghana's fiscal framework by redesigning the fiscal rule, strengthening automatic stabilizers, while containing budget rigidities.
Finance Minister Dr. Atufos, in a related development, Finance Minister has announced that government has been able to save 1 billion Ghana cedis based on the recent reduction in the Treasury bills rate on the market. Let's bring you some reactions, especially from the business communities on the sidelines of the National Economic Dialogue, especially when it comes to collection of taxes. Dr. Humphrey Dake is President Association of Ghana Industries.
No, the major concern between us, the gain is mutual. So if the difficulty is compliance, deploy technology. Today, technology is the way to get everybody into the tax net, because his tax is to get more revenue. And there are many people out of the tax revenue, and therefore it's a struggle to meet the tax, target. So broaden the revenue, broaden the base using technology. That's the way to go.
Dr. Humphrey Dake is President of the Association of Ghana Industries. Now, the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Anthony Sapon, has given the firm assurance that they will be able to meet the tax target for this year. The authority should be able to collect more than 200 billion Ghana cedis target compared to the 145 billion Ghana cedis it mobilized last year. However, some are worried that this might be difficult to achieve, but the Commissioner General disagrees.
The face of it. But I believe that with determination, with the right strategies and teamwork, we will be able to meet this challenge. And I say so on the grounds that one, we do know that there are several areas where our tax handles are not performing. Indeed, the minister did mention about the performance of VAT, which contributes about 17% of our domestic tax composition, compared to our peers that are running around 50%. And therefore, if we focus on VAT, we should be able to close some of the gap.
Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Anthony Sapon. Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama has noted that measures are being implemented that could help fast-track inflation rate slowdown to hit that single-digit target very soon. He has been speaking in an interview with the Bloomberg News.
But we think that going forward, if you look at the causes, of the pressures, the inflationary pressures, it was mainly from, food inflation. It was mainly structural in nature. And so therefore, the coming budget statement, which is about to be presented, should be presenting a number of measures that can contain food inflation. If that is done, we are sure that we will see a return to the disinflation path.
He's also been talking about how the monetary policy mechanisms will be used to stimulate investor confidence in the coming months.
We started the entire FPAS somewhere in the early 2000s. Since then, a number of things have remained the same. For example, you don't see the reasons for individual members' assessments, before they vote. We think that going forward, we must publish those assessments that individual members make. We also think that the entire framework or the FPAS must be understood by the public. And so there will be a lot more transparency into the decisions that we make at the level of monetary policy making going forward. That in itself will enhance the credibility behind the decisions that we make.
Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama speaking to Bloomberg News in that interview. Let's turn our attention to the stock market, and it appears that MTN's stellar financial performance for last year is impacting on the share price on the Ghana Stock Exchange. It was up by 9 pesos at the end of trading on the market today, and it's now worth 3 Ghana cedis for every investor of MTN. Each share that you're holding is now worth 3 Ghana cedis. That of Standard Chartered Bank was up by a peso to close at 25 Ghana cedis, 2 pesos. And that's some market news. You might look at getting some MTN shares. My brother with the sports news.
Let's go straight into our stories. And the president of the Ghana Football Association, Keto Kriku, earlier today led the Black Stars technical team to pay a courtesy call on the Minister of Sports and Recreation, Kofi Adams. The visit was to formally introduce the newly assembled technical team and seek the minister's support ahead of Ghana's crucial 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Chad and Madagascar later this month. Keto Kriku said the visit was to seek the minister's blessing as the team embarks on the journey, hoping to turn around the fortunes of the national team. Welcoming the delegation, Kofi Adams expressed his commitment to supporting the Black Stars and in a collective effort to ensure success. He assured the team of his open door policy and encouraged them to reach out whenever necessary. Moving on, former Black Stars head coach and now head coach of Sudan's national team, Kwesi Appiah, has opened up on the decision to augment the leadership structure of the team ahead of the FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Chad and Madagascar. Jordan Ayew has been named substantive captain of the side, with Alexander Djiku and Mohamed Kudus serving as deputies. Kwesi Appiah says he's happy the captaincy issues are being resolved and opened up on his support for the team ahead of the qualifiers.
No, for me, the only advice that I can give is I'm really happy that the position at the moment is not that bad. And then secondly, I'm hoping that what I've heard is true. That they're trying to sort out the captaincy issue. And then secondly, if there are other issues, which I don't know, I actually didn't want to go into blasters. I'm not in Ghana, I can live with the team. Yeah. So anything that you say will be like the populations that you're trying to control. But if I think these two, they're able to sort it, because the players that we have are all quality players.
You heard former Black Stars head coach and current head coach of Sudan's national team, Kwesi Appiah, bringing an end to sports. Back to you, Bless.
Grateful. And of course, we can take you to the Volta region now, because the crisis is deepening for coastal communities in the Ketu South municipality, as scores of people have been displaced after their houses were washed away by the sea. In Avagaji, affected residents, including women and children, have taken temporary shelter in schools. We're live in the communities for the latest update shortly. Earlier, though, the Volta Regional Minister himself, James Gunu, has described the distraction as a direct threat to national security. Fred Kwame Asari has more.
Makafi Atai was born and raised up in the Agave community of the Ketu South municipality in the Volta region. Her home and survival are threatened by the devastations of coastal erosion, which continue to wash away her community. A recent incident left the community devastated, as homes and cemeteries, among others, were affected. This is my father's house. I stayed here since infancy. The sea used to be some kilometers away, but in 2019, we started experiencing coastal erosions. We were at the roadside, far away from the sea, but the erosion had gotten to us. The Volta Regional Minister, James Gunu, was left in shock after assessing the devastation caused.
Has actually made it a national security issue. Houses have been washed away, cemeteries are gone, and a lot of things, and the psychological trauma that the people are going through, including children and women, calls for urgent action. That is why we are here. Now that the road is also going, and from the look of things, communities and the land behind the road is far, far below sea level. So if nothing is done urgently and we allow the sea to cross the road continuously, the degree of devastation that we'll see cannot be contained.
Well, Blessed, still in Agaveji, one of the worst hit communities, families face an unbearable reality. The relentless sea is swallowing their land and their past. Desperate and heartbroken, they are exhuming the graves of their loved ones as they seek to keep the memories that they have of them. There's more in this report by Emmanuel Chiveno.
It's an emotional scene here at Agaveji. The final resting place for these loved ones is no more. One by one, graves are opened and bodies exhumed as the sea relentlessly claims what should be sacred ground. Ebenezer San is the assemblyman for Agaveji.
The sea have taken about 63 tons so far. The remaining bodies that my people get to, they have transferred them to other cemeteries.
The Agaveji community has been battling the rising tides for years. Now, the sea is evading cemeteries and washing away graves.
Where they have transferred those bodies to, if this sea defense project doesn't continue, those cemeteries too will be taken away by the tidal wave.
The coastal communities of Ketu South are under siege. In just 7 days, tides have eroded vast areas, displacing families and threatening their very existence. Director for Institute of Environmental and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana, Professor Kwesi Epieni Ado, is calling for the shoreline to be stabilized.
Have been disastrous. We need to stabilize the shoreline. We could use a process called redredgement, where we align rocks along the coast and push it into the water and stabilize the shoreline. We don't have time on our side. We must stabilize the shoreline.
The community is calling for urgent attention. Their MP, Ablan Jifar Gomashi, assures the residents that the government is committed to finding a lasting solution.
I'm assuring them that they should have faith. Help is on the way.
But for these families, time is running out. As they carry the remains of their loved ones further inland, the fear remains. How long until the sea follows? Emmanuel Chiveno, Joy News, Agaveji, Volta Region.
Bringing now the Volta Regional Director of Operations at NADMO, Pascal Agbagba. Thank you so much for your time here on Newsnight. Let's get an understanding what immediate relief efforts are in place for displaced residents.
Can you come again?
I wanted to know what efforts are in place currently to help residents already displaced.
Okay, thank you and good evening to your listeners. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we were there. And the efforts we are making is that, one, we have provided relief items, enough to take care of the victims, in the form of mosquito nets, in the form of mosquito coil, rice, oil, soap, blankets, plastic bowls, plastic plates.
You have relief items. At the top of your head, can you tell me how many residents have been affected so far?
How many residents? So far, as of yesterday, the figure stands at 681.
And let's look at the long-term solutions, because
long-term
many have
solutions.
described this as a coastal erosion crisis. So what measures are you putting in place long-term to help residents?
Yeah, long-term, we have indicated in our reports that the major solution to the problem is the sea defense wall that they were building, and it has ended up at Agaveji. So because it has ended up there, they are the hardest hit anytime the tides come. So we are proposing to government that there should be a continuation of the sea defense wall. And thankfully, the president has mentioned that in the State of the Nation address. And our expectation is that during the few days to come, when they are reading the budget, it will be captured in the budget.
Thank you so much for your time here on Newsnight. We've just been engaging NADMO to get a sense of some of the key things they would be doing in the region to help mitigate the impact. Now, let's do some other stories now. It's Ghana month, and did you know that Mole National Park is nearly 1.5 times the size of Greater Accra, and it is not in the Greater Accra region. But that's not all. Mole is the only game reserve in the country that spans 3 regions and 5 districts, offering an unparalleled blend of biodiversity and cultural richness. Well, for Ghana month, Martina Bugri filed this report.
The Mole National Park is home to Ghana's largest game reserve, arguably the reserve that has the largest natural animal inhabitants.
Welcome to the Mole National Park. We take a tour around the park to show you the beauty of the Mole National Park and the animals in there, the plants and the birds as well. Come along with me as we go to the wild.
Established in 1958, it was named after the River Mole. A visitor to the park would definitely live there with fond memories and inspired. Rakim Yusuf tells us about the park.
In summary of the park, we have 94 species of mammals, 33 reptiles, 9 amphibians, 350 bird species, and over 700 tree species.
The animals are welcoming, which offers tourists the opportunity to get up close with these animals. So what makes Mole the preferred destination for visitors? Patience Teteji shares her thoughts.
It covers a land area of 4,577 square kilometers, which is very greater than almighty Greater Accra. Mole National Park is so unique in the sense that it has this variety of biodiversity in terms of flora and fauna. Talking about flora aspect, we have diverse plant species, diverse distributed unevenly even in the park. So it makes Mole quite unique compared to other protected areas.
For those looking for a serene atmosphere, the park's motel is an ideal choice.
So the experience here is actually different from the urban area dining whilst there's wild animal around that harming you. People dine and then the elephant is very close to them. By the pool, the elephant is feeding on a flower or whatever. That makes it so unique.
Whether you are a nature lover, wildlife enthusiast, or simply looking for a tranquil getaway, Mole National Park has something for everyone. For Joy News, Martina Bugri reporting.
And of course, such an interesting fact there. So if you're in the Greater Accra region with all of these population, you should know that there's a place bigger. You could just go out there one of these weekends, relax at the Mole National Park, and you'd see that amazing beauty that we have up north in terms of what nature has blessed us with. Have you been there before?
No, but I think we should. We should go.
Yeah, maybe. You never know. You never know what will happen in the coming days. But a lot of interesting stuff happening online that we are equally learning about. That a woman accused of biting a customer's testicles in the Asim Fosu area has actually denied the claim, and she's been stating that she did not actually bite these testicles. Actually, interesting story. It's not funny because someone is actually in pains now. And Erica Sente has been there for us following that story, Eric. In just a minute, because we need to go, give us details briefly.
So, Blessed, the accused person told the court that her actions were in reactions to what the victim did. She denied biting Osman's testicle, claiming she squeezed it, pulled them to their elastic limit. That is the reason why the victim bled. So, in court on Friday, the victim had to be rushed out because he was bleeding profusely. But the accused insists that her actions were in reactions to what the victim did to her.
Well, that's all time will allow us, but of course, unfortunate balls there. But anyway, grateful for your time, Eric Asante, giving us the latest on that matter. We'll be following up on that for you. Obviously, Fosti cannot contain that
I'm sorry,
funny
forgive
fact.
me.
It's not a fun fact, actually, but
Forgive
it's a real situation, actually, and
Biting
quite
a customer's
painful.
testicle.
Yeah, painful situation. It will be. Don't try that at home if you're listening to us. And that's all time will allow us here on Newsnight. Bless us again doing this with. Obviously. Fosti, you're too excited. Good night.